You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. I don't think many people were expecting to wake up on this Monday and learn that former LSU coach Les Miles is suing LSU, but that's exactly the case. As a matter of fact, filed in the United States District Court, Middle District of Louisiana, Leslie Edwin Les Miles versus Louisiana State University, the Board of Supervisors, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, and the National Football Foundation and Hall of Fame, Inc. are all there listed as plaintiffs in the case. So Les Miles is suing LSU and the National Football Foundation because the National Football Foundation is responsible for election into the College Football Hall of Fame. So hop in the Wayback Machine with me, if you would, and remember what happened 3 years ago. When the NCAA was going round and round and round and round with LSU, and they were dragging along football with the men's basketball investigation. This is complex and complicated. I'm going to try to make it as easy and digestible as possible because I realize this was several years back now and it carried on for several years. So, Will Wade gets caught on that wiretap. The Will Wade saga continues to play out. Meanwhile, we knew years after Vidal Alexander was done playing football at LSU that his dad was paid for a no-show job, $180,000. Well, LSU wanted resolution to the football case, but the NCAA kept dragging on football as leverage to pop Will Wade. That's basically what it boiled down to. And if you get multiple level 1 violations in different sports, they can hit you with lack of institutional control. Essentially, the NCAA wanted their pound of flesh from Will Wade, and they used football as leverage to make sure they got what they wanted in basketball. The football case all went back to Vidal Alexander and his dad getting paid $180K for a no-show job. Well, when the punishments finally came, as you might recall, LSU self-imposed a bowl ban in the 2020 season, and they vacated 37 wins. The wins that took place during Vidal Alexander's time playing football at LSU. Those 37 wins that LSU vacated also came off of Les Miles' career record. Well, one of the requirements for election to the College Football Hall of Fame for a coach is a career winning percentage above 600. When Les Miles retired, his winning percentage was 665. He would have been a College Football Hall of Famer, no doubt. National champion, played for another, won over 66% of his games. When LSU vacated those 37 wins, Les Miles' winning percentage dropped to 597, 3 points below the threshold, meaning he is no longer eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame. We know that since Les was let go at Kansas, he has not coached again and has kept a very low public profile. As I understand it, Les and Kathy built a home in Florida, and that's where they now reside. You may say, like, why would Les do this? And it's, I think, very important also to draw a very clear distinction. This is not the Title IX case. Remember, there was a Title IX case for the way that LSU supposedly handled or mishandled allegations of assault against female students. That's back to the Drake Davis stuff. That goes back to the suspensions of Miriam Seeger and Verge Osbury. That goes back to erasing Darius Geis from the record books, all that sort of stuff. That was the Title IX instance. Okay, that's what Sharon Lewis's lawsuit, which, by the way, of course, as you recall, a judge threw out Sharon Lewis's lawsuit. She got nothing. As a matter of fact, she and her attorneys actually owe something like $250,000 in damages for filing such a ridiculous lawsuit. So this is not that. This has nothing to do with that. This is all about the Vidal Alexander situation and LSU vacating wins. Well, Les is suing not for money. This has nothing to do with money. This is all about legacy. And the unfortunate part, and the way that the reason I brought up the Title IX case is because Les was mentioned in that. And as a part, it feels like, from a public opinion standpoint, and you may disagree with this or not, I don't know. You can make up your own, you can receive the information you have and make up your own mind. The public opinion of Les Miles, his legacy, was tarnished because of those allegations. And he never got his opportunity to have his day in court. He never, because the lawsuit was thrown out, he never had the opportunity to speak on it. But public opinion remains. And because these two things were happening sort of coinciding with each other, it feels very much like, even though they were different, the opinion regarding Les were interwoven. So, by the way, Les Miles is represented by Peter Ginsburg, who has handled a lot of high-profile cases. Peter Ginsburg represented Jonathan Vilma in Bountygate. Peter Ginsburg represented Vijay Singh. Remember when Vijay Singh sued the PGA Tour because of the old deer antler spray thing? Do you remember that? That was Peter Ginsburg, who represented Vijay Singh. So when it comes down to the matter, it's really like, did the NCAA do the right thing in vacating wins as part of the punishment? And could LSU have done anything different, maybe to support Les Miles? I was fortunate enough to have a conversation today with, let's say, with an attorney who's very familiar with the goings-on of the NCAA in these types of cases. Let's just leave it at that. And this person went into a lot of detail with me about why the decision the NCAA made, the penalties against LSU and vacating the wins, was quite honestly a very standard penalty for a level 1 violation. We looked at the structure of the violations from the NCAA, and the level 1 violations, which is a severe breach of conduct, include things that talk about substantial or extensive impermissible benefits, recruiting violations, things that undermine the integrity of college sports, lack of institutional control. All to say, very clearly, the Vidal-Alexander situation falls under a level 1. I don't think that should be any surprise. Now, if you read ESPN's report, which cites the complaint, I'll read these two lines directly, and this is from Adam Rittenberg at ESPN. I'll read these two lines. I want to read it directly, and this is where either Adam or the lawsuit have it incorrectly, or they're trying to allege something differently. Quote, "The lawsuit notes that 2 of the 3 violations NCAA found with LSU football occurred after Miles' tenure as the team's coach." That's true. "The level 2 violation involving Alexander was discovered 2 years after Miles' LSU tenure ended." I was given today the IARP result against LSU. All 17 pages of it. I'm looking at it right here. And in the penalties, they talk about the core penalties. And this is important. Because again, Les Miles' lawsuit is alleging level 2 violation. I will read directly from the penalty section of the IARP findings. "Based on its assessment, the independent resolution panel classifies this case as level 1 standard for LSU and level 1 standard for the former head men's basketball coach." That was Will Wade. The level 1 standard for LSU is the Vidal-Alexander case. Again, the NCAA, the IARP, levied these penalties not against Les Miles, but against LSU, the LSU football program. As a result of these findings, yes, Les Miles' record was affected, but it wasn't levied directly against Les Miles. It was levied against LSU. And by the way, this is very common practice. I had, again, the attorney that I spoke with today, who was very generous with their time, shared with me a sort of corresponding, a similar case from 2019 when TCU swimming and diving contested penalties of forfeiture. And one of the things outlined here, pull this up, Paulie. One of the things outlined here very clearly are the 6 criteria under which vacation of wins is appropriate. Academic violations, serious intentional violations, that would qualify. Direct involvement of coach, high-ranking school administrator, or booster, that will qualify. So that's 2 of the 3 so far. Large number of violations, disputable. Recent history level 1 violations, disputable. And when the panel concludes failure to monitor of lack of institutional control existed, that did happen. They hit LSU with failure to monitor because of the situation with John Paul Funes, the OLOL booster. So of the 6 criteria for which vacating wins could be possible, LSU checks 3 of the boxes. And it's any of the 6. LSU's got half of them. So yeah, vacating wins, while I think it's stupid, I'll never understand why we're trying to erase history that we all saw happen, why you're punishing current players for things that happened in the past, you're trying to erase that. Like, it's never made sense to me. I think vacating wins is one of the stupidest penalties ever. But in very clear, crystal clear, black and white, it was a level 1 violation, and vacating wins is totally appropriate under the letter of the law from the NCAA and the IARP. So from this standpoint, what they did was appropriate in vacating the wins. And yes, it negatively affected Les Miles. I can't understand why Les would do this. I mean, I know why Les is doing this. Les is 70 years old. This is about his legacy. He dedicated his life to coaching. He is a Hall of Fame coach on the field. There has certainly been conversation. I don't think that this is any great surprise. I'm not breaking news about Les, who may not be in the greatest health, which is one of the reasons why he has certainly evaded the public eye. And I don't fault him for that at all. Like, I had a great relationship with Les Miles. Really. Like, from a human-to-human perspective, I wish him and his family absolutely nothing but the best. So this is not in any way an attack in that sense. But for Les, I think this is a thing where he's looking at his legacy and saying, I was accused of things that I didn't do or that were misrepresented. I never got my day in court. I never got my opportunity to speak about them. It's now cost me not only my opportunity to coach, but now my legacy. And to whatever degree I can go represent myself, I'm going to do it. So I think that's what this is all about. But the reality is there is very little, if any, precedent for the NCAA to overturn something like this. So they rarely grant exceptions. I don't know that this is going to happen. It also just opens this whole bag of worms again for Sharon Lewis and her crackpot attorneys to jump back in and start that whole conversation again if she wanted to. Yes, this would certainly give Les his opportunity to tell his side, and I wouldn't begrudge him that. But I also look and I say, is this really the method to go about doing it? Because for someone who spent so much time here and was beloved, regardless of how it ended, he was beloved, he was the hat, he was the grass eater, he was a national champion, he was all of those things. Yes, he was stubborn, but like anyone you love, like a family member, there's good and there's bad, and you love them for everything, even their faults, but there were so many more good moments than bad with Les. It feels like if what you're trying to do is regain legacy, this only sends things in the opposite direction. What you should do is spend the remaining time highlighting all the good, reminding people of all the good, instead of this, and let people go to bat for you in the same way Reggie Bush did and got his Heisman reinstated years later. And again, I think it's a stupid rule. Absolutely, Les Miles should be in the College Football Hall of Fame. Vacating wins is absurd. And to that end, I hope he wins. But wouldn't a better path have been for Les Miles to go make an appeal to the National Football Foundation to say, maybe we should amend this rule so that way I can get in? If the Heisman Trust was willing to re-award Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy, people can change as times change. And the fact that Vidal Alexander got $180,000 12 years ago, or his dad got for a no-show job 12 years ago, is going to keep Les Miles out of the College Football Hall of Fame, that on its face is absurd. So, yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm just not sure this is the way to go about doing it. But as it all transpires, we'll certainly keep you posted. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.